The sun had just begun to set, casting a golden hue over the quiet suburban neighborhood where 6-year-old Emily Carter played in her front yard. Her laughter echoed as she pushed herself higher on the swing, her blonde curls bouncing in the cool autumn breeze. Her mother, Rebecca Carter, stood by the kitchen window, smiling as she watched her daughter. Then the phone rang. It was only a minute, maybe 2, that Rebecca turned her back. When she stepped outside again, the swing was empty, swaying gently in the wind. "Emily?" Her voice trembled. She scanned the yard, the sidewalk, the street. Nothing. Panic set in like a vice around her chest. She ran barefoot into the road, screaming her daughter's name. The neighbors rushed out, their faces etched with concern. Within hours, the police arrived, flashlights cutting through the growing darkness. But Emily was gone, vanished without a trace. The agonizing search. The following days were a blur of sleepless nights and desperate prayers. Rebecca barely ate, barely spoke. She only existed, moving from one police station to another, pleading for answers. Flyers with Emily's bright, innocent smile covered every streetlight, every storefront, every telephone pole. But weeks passed. Leads dried up. Hope faded. Rebecca refused to believe her daughter was gone forever, but the weight of uncertainty crushed her soul. She spent every night sitting by the window whispering, "Come back to me, baby," into the silence. Then, 3 months later, the phone rang again. The break in the case. A shaky, anonymous voice on the other end of the line muttered 7 words that sent a shiver down Rebecca's spine. They took her to the cabin. "Hurry." Within hours, a convoy of police cars sped through a dense forest 50 miles away. The officers stormed the rickety wooden cabin, guns drawn, hearts pounding. And there, in the dimly lit corner of a filthy room, they found her. Emily. She clutched a tattered stuffed bunny, her tiny body trembling, her once bright eyes now dull with fear. When the officer lifted her into his arms, she didn't fight. She didn't speak. She just buried her face into his shoulder, silent tears soaking his uniform. The man arrested at the scene was Richard Dawson, a 42-year-old drifter with a history of petty crimes. But this was beyond anything the town had ever seen. Emily was finally safe. But the real battle had only begun. The courtroom drama. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, townspeople, and a grieving mother seeking justice. Rebecca sat in the front row, her hands clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Emily sat beside her, too small, too fragile for the nightmare she had survived. The prosecution, led by District Attorney James Holloway, painted a harrowing picture of Dawson's actions. "He stole this child from her home," Holloway's voice thundered. "He terrorized her, lied to her, and for 93 days, he made her believe she was abandoned, that her mother didn't want her, that he was the only one who cared." Rebecca swallowed hard, her heart breaking as Emily squeezed her hand. The defense attorney, Lisa Grant, took a deep breath before delivering her argument. "My client is severely mentally ill. He believed he was saving the child from a dangerous world. This is not a case of malice, but of a disturbed man who needs help, not life in prison." Whispers spread through the courtroom. Rebecca's hands trembled. Help. Was she supposed to believe this man, this monster, wasn't fully aware of his actions? Emily's testimony. The judge, knowing the trauma Emily had endured, allowed her to speak in a private session. A child psychologist sat beside her as she held her bunny close, her voice barely above a whisper. "He told me my mommy didn't want me anymore," she murmured. "He said he was my new daddy, and we had to stay hidden." A tear slid down Rebecca's cheek. "But I knew my mommy was looking for me," Emily continued. "I missed her every night." Silence filled the courtroom when the recording was played for the jury. Even the toughest of them blinked back tears. The verdict. The prosecution left no room for doubt. Dawson had stalked the Carters for months, taking notes, planning the abduction with chilling precision. The insanity plea crumbled under expert testimony, proving he was fully aware of what he was doing. The jury deliberated for 2 days. When they returned, the air was thick with tension. The foreman stood, cleared his throat, and spoke the words Rebecca had prayed for. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Richard Dawson, guilty of kidnapping in the 1st degree." A sob escaped Rebecca's lips as she clutched Emily in her arms. Dawson sat motionless, his expression blank, as the judge delivered the sentence. Life in prison without parole. Rebecca closed her eyes, relief washing over her like a wave. It was over. Finally, it was over. Healing begins. Outside the courthouse, Rebecca held Emily close as reporters shoved microphones in her face. "No mother should have to go through this," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "I thank God my daughter is home. But this nightmare doesn't just disappear. We will carry these scars forever. I just hope no other child has to suffer like she did." As they walked away from the flashing cameras, Emily looked up at her mother. "We can go home now." Rebecca bent down, kissing her forehead, brushing away a stray curl. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "We're going home." And for the first time in months, Emily smiled. This case became a landmark ruling in child abduction laws, strengthening punishments for offenders and increasing awareness about child safety. But beyond the legal implications, it was a reminder, a chilling, heartbreaking reminder, that evil exists, but so does love. And love, no matter how broken, always finds its way home.